Cultural diplomacy builds international ties between states through the exchange of ideas, information, art, and other aspects of culture. China is particularly centered on the Confucian idea of harmonious society. In its launch of a global campaign to establish its peaceful rise to power identity, China is taking on a more active role not only in the Southeast Asian region, but in the international community as well. Seeing hard power as insufficient in attaining China's goals, Xi Jinping seeks to rebrand the Chinese identity in the international community by enhancing diplomatic ties with other states. Xi's foreign policy, based on friendship and cooperation, is designed to further China's position as a top player through bilateral agreements that will benefit the entire region. Confucius Institutes are language and cultural schools strategically tied to host universities to teach Chinese, promote cultural exchange, and facilitate business activity. In achieving the previously mentioned goals, Confucius Institutes seem to work. However, many claim an existing underlying political agenda due to China's rapidly expanding global network. Two theories have been used to analyze this political phenomenon: neorealism and constructivism. China has been pushed for two approaches. One is their more than aggressive stance on international disputes, and the next is of a benevolent economic trading power. This calls into mind Walz's neorealist theory that the international community is leaning towards an economic interdependence instead of militaristic independence. The Chinese government is building good relationships with states to gain influence and economic interdependence. According to Waltz, national interest and states' international behavior are shaped by the international system, in which states will naturally emulate more successful states. China is pursuing the position of being a successful state by marketing its capabilities through spending on host diplomacy, the use of its growing economy to attract states, and through funding Confucius Institutes around the globe. But there seems to be a gap in this theory. Walz's argument revolves around the assumption that states are structurally anarchic, which means that it is by the very virtue of the environment that China acts the way it does. If you recall, China has always internalized that it is a global power as reflected in its Middle Kingdom syndrome. But this is not the case today. The image that China wants to project is that of a good neighbor. However, at the same time, it imposes a threat with its military presence on its neighbors in Southeast Asia. If Walz's theory is to be believed, then China's only objective is to gain power through peaceful means. Waltz gives one assumption, that states are anarchic. Unfortunately, this only considers the environment of the states, without any of their interaction. The constructivist Venn remedies this by saying that anarchy is not a natural phenomenon, and that it actually emerges from the interaction of states. This gives an adequate explanation for China's bipolar diplomacy, which borders between the extremes of violence and benevolence. CIs influence Chinese cultural diplomacy through the fact that CIs follow the principles of attraction, proximity, and familiarity. Influence basically is composed of these elements. CIs do follow this basic trend. Attraction, through the spread of their culture and language; proximity, since their CIs are situated in host countries; and familiarity, through their promotion of education and domestication through their presence in the host country. One point to remember is that what China is promoting is actually diplomacy, instead of the allegations of other people that it is propaganda. Since China does try to train their teachers and control the educational content through their principle of harmonious society, and in order not to instigate any other accusations from other states, the process is actually a two-way street. Ergo, Chinese diplomacy is not propaganda, it is diplomacy.
China is centered on the Confucian idea of harmonious society in order to explain the Chinese point of view, and more importantly, to combat the widespread idea that it is a threat to other states. Confucianism itself plays a significant role in China's rebranding efforts. It demands social order, social values, and ethics, and is founded on harmony, peace, and virtue. China is repackaging its image within the context of Confucianism as a moral code for society. Thus, China has started a new global campaign to re-establish itself as an influential cultural authority and a peaceful benign power. China upholds a number of principles in projecting a Confucian mindset, particularly that of a harmonious society. It exercises good neighborliness and responsible power and continues to reject the title of hegemon.
The agenda of Confucius Institutes are dependent on the needs of the host state. In Cambodia, schools in all 24 provinces are to be launched. In Indonesia, due to the anti-China sentiment, CIs there bank on number than popularity. Less effort is required to establish CIs in Laos due to an already existing healthy relationship between the two states. In Singapore, Chinese morality, ethics, history, and philosophy are integrated to their various business and Mandarin language curriculums. Malaysia-based CIs carry a tripartite business, culture, and language focus, while in the Philippines, economy and business, scholarships, Chinese language training for teachers, and research are the CI's main agenda.
There are three reasons explaining why China faces problems in promoting its language and culture to the rest of the world. These reasons are limited resources, political agenda accusations, and academies dropping Confucius Institutes because of incompatibility. In terms of limited resources, this includes the issue of scope and supply of teachers. there has been an ongoing issue of an imbalanced demand-supply ratio in terms of Chinese language instructors, where only 5,000 can be trained a year when the prescribed number of instructors is pegged at 100,000. Another issue is that Confucius institutes have been accused of furthering China's political agenda through thinly veiled academic means. There have been reported cases of discrimination against non-Chinese culture and the promotion of communist propaganda, particularly in the West. Because of this, countries have been accusing Confucius institutes as Trojan horse, or a trap intended to undermine an enemy. Confucius institutes even have support from the highest levels of the Chinese government. In 2007, Hu Jintao, former General Secretary of the Communist Party of China, called for increasing China's soft power through cultural enhancement for reasons of national cohesion and overall national strength. In the same year, Jia Qinglin, a former senior leader of the People's Republic of China, called for bolstering the country's soft power through cultural development. Schools around the world such as Penn State University and Stockholm University have dropped Confucius Institutes as partners. The contract with the Confucius Institutes are not in line with how Swedish universities are run, hence Stockholm University cutting off Confucius Institutes. The reason why most Western universities drop Confucius Institutes is that they are not in line with the way the university is run. These multiple occurrences of Confucius Institutes being cut off illustrate China's problem of communicating its culture, ideals, and goals in a largely Western ideology-dominated world.
To conclude, the Confucius Institute system definitely contributes to China's cultural expansion. However, we have yet to see if China will be successful in projecting itself as a benevolent superpower through the soft power approach.